Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, ladies and gents. The next parts that I'm going to test on my Hypermotard 698 are the Woodcraft rear sets, and I'm excited. They give us the ability to do GP shifts. So my Hypermotard is one of my last bikes that's not set up GP. Gets a little weird switching back and forth between it. Mostly handled okay, but I'd rather have it GP. Comes with a really pretty carbon fiber sprocket cover because the stock cover will get in the way with the GP pattern. So I'm not going to do a full how to install these because they do come with instructions, but just going to do a review of how hard I found it. If I find anything that I find really tricky, I'll call it out and let you know what I think of them afterwards. I've installed quite a few sets of Woodcraft rear sets. Installing rear sets are never like a one and done. If you're not a guy that likes to be finicky with things and, yeah, what's the word I'm looking for? That likes to fiddle with things, then putting rear sets on are probably not for you. They're one of those things that take a couple adjustments usually to get right. Very important when putting rear set parts on. You always use some Loctite on them. They tend to vibrate a bit and come off. Yeah, stay tuned. I have the Woodcraft rear sets mocked up on my 698 Hypermotard. I went with the lower foot peg position because I'm not really doing these for ground clearance, more doing for style and the ability to reverse the GP shift. It did call out in the instructions that it doesn't have that these are for racing only, and it doesn't include a spring for the rear brake, but it does use the stock one. And even though there's no switch in the assembly, it must be using pressure. The brake light works, which that's nice. So yeah, I don't know the exact mechanism it's doing it, but it must be like a banjo pressure switch, or when the system's pressurized, it lights up the back brake, which is cool because then there wasn't that to adjust. They were pretty easy to put on. It took me maybe 45 minutes. So now I'm going to take them all the way back apart, put some blue Loctite on the bolts, and bolt this side back up permanently. The brake side is done, and that was pretty easy. Moved on to what most times is a little bit more difficult, and that's the shifter side. We got a few extra pieces on the Woodcraft rear sets to do this because I'm going to do GP shift. So they give you a lever. You can see in the picture how that mounts. And it came with a carbon fiber, I had to buy it, obviously, a carbon fiber sprocket cover because the stock one won't have enough clearance. And these are for racing, air quotes. So they don't come with a bracket to mount up the kickstand, but that's what that's for. So the key is that we can't, I don't have access to the ECU, so I cannot flip the direction of force onto the sensor. A lot of people are under the misconception that, like, if you take the sensor and flip it over, that would change the direction, but it doesn't work like that. It's either push or pull. So push is you're trying to compress the sensor. Pull is you're trying to pull it apart. So we don't want that direction to change on the sensor when we're shifting up, but we want the direction on the knuckle to change. So let's see what Woodcraft has in store to make that happen. The stock rear sets are off. So I'm going to follow the directions and carefully and slowly put the Woodcraft rear sets back on. And remember, this initial setup will be without any Loctite. And then I'll take them apart and Loctite them in place once I'm sure everything is correct. Really pretty sprocket covers on. I would suggest doing that first once you get everything off so nothing's in the way. I have attached the little extender that they gave for the shift rod. And the shift rod is attached to the shifter arm. And I got the foot peg on the main bracket. Getting close. So I'm going to install the kickstand switch. It just fits over here, and then there's a pin on the backside that fits into a hole right there. And a little strange for a kickstand switch, but obviously it works. The shifter side is on and done, set up for GP shift. This is the angle of everything I have. The angle of this is almost exactly parallel with that, which is what we want to transfer all the force back. All these are tight. Everything has been loosened and Loctited. So I'm going to take it out for a ride in a little bit. I'll let you know how I like them, but I do love how they look. I also got some Woodcraft frame sliders and axle sliders to put on, but I got to run out. So let's see what they feel like. rear sets all installed. Did my test ride with them. I really, really like them. The solid knurled foot pegs that they use are just such an improvement over the rubbery ones, the stock ones. GP pattern, shift pattern, shifts really buttery and nice. Everything works really well. The only thing I added, what I'm going to do is so this kickstand wire, just I don't like the looks of that. It looks unclean, kind of hanging there. It clips, it's zip tied to the stock sprocket cover. So all I did was added the kickstand removal plug, and I'll show you where that goes in a second. So that whole thing will be able to be removed, which will give it just a little cleaner look. All these parts are available on sale in my website. Direct link is below in the description. Thanks guys for watching. Remember to hit the subscribe and like button. I just wanted to show where the plug was. If you own one of these, you probably know that this pulls right out, and it has the Allen key to pull the bolts for the seat. And behind that, we follow this up, was this simple plug. And so we just unplug that, and at the wiring harness end, we just plug that into that, and then clean all these wires up, and we'll put the little rubber wire ties that Ducati uses, which are pretty nice, back on there, and we'll be all done. So pretty easy. I'd say the whole install took me, I would guess, 2.5 to 3 hours, if I'm going to be honest, with all the adjustment and playing and fiddling and making my videos. So not the easiest of install, not the hardest, but they are definitely a bit tricky, like most rear sets. So thanks guys.